Glass shatters as the door explodes inward. Officers' weapons aimed at a black man frantically covering documents. The lead officer slams him against the wall, zip ties cutting into his wrists. 3 more officers pour in, weapons drawn, boots crunching over broken glass and scattered papers. The man speaks calmly despite the knee in his back. "I'm Colonel James Harrington, Pentagon Special Operations Command. My credentials are in my wallet." "Sure, buddy, you work for the Pentagon, and I'm the president." Officer Daniels laughs, digging through the wallet and tossing aside a high-security clearance badge. "Nice fake ID." The camera pans across multiple computer screens displaying satellite imagery, mission coordinates, and the words "classified, top secret" in bold red. The man whispers something that makes the lead officer's face go pale. Colonel James Harrington sits in his home office, fingers flying across 3 keyboards. Satellite feeds display terrain in a foreign territory while encrypted messages scroll across another screen. The suburban Virginia home's exterior betrays nothing of the critical mission unfolding inside. Harrington wears simple gray sweatpants and a navy t-shirt, comfort prioritized during what's already a 12-hour remote command session. "Extraction team, hold position," he directs into his headset, voice carrying the steady authority of his 22 years of military service. "Satellite showing hostiles at your 2 o'clock, half-click out." Outside, a patrol car pulls to the curb. Officers Daniels and Rivera scan the upscale neighborhood of colonial-style homes and manicured lawns. Dispatch had relayed a neighbor's call. Suspicious activity, possible break-in, unknown black male entering the residence at 1478 Oakwood Drive. "Caller says he's never seen this guy before," Officer Daniels says, checking his sidearm. Claims he doesn't match the neighborhood demographic. Officer Rivera nods, younger and deferential. "Property records show owner is a James Harrington, purchased 3 years ago." 3 years without neighbors recognizing him? Daniels scoffs. "That's a red flag. He's either never here or it's not actually his place." They approach cautiously, noticing lights on in what appears to be a home office. Through partially open blinds, they glimpse Harrington gesturing emphatically while speaking to someone not visible. "Check it out," Daniels whispers, crouching below window level. "Multiple screens, maps, looks like some kind of planning operation." "Maybe he's gaming? One of those military strategy things?" Rivera suggests. Daniels' face hardens. "Or planning something else. People don't have setups like that for video games." His hand moves to his weapon. "Remember that cell we busted last year? Had similar equipment." Inside, Harrington remains oblivious to their presence, fully focused on guiding a team of servicemen and women through hostile territory halfway across the world. "Command, we're at the extraction point," crackles a voice in his headset. "Awaiting final approach coordinates." Daniels signals to Rivera, drawing his weapon as he whispers, "We've got a situation in progress." Harrington's focus narrows to the mission display. 6 American operatives await his guidance in territory where official U.S. presence would constitute an international incident. Their lives hang on his next commands. "Satellite shows clear approach from the northeast," he says, adjusting the satellite angle. "Extraction vehicle ETA 3 minutes. Maintain radio silence until..." A pounding at the front door barely registers through his noise-canceling headset. When it comes again, louder, he mentally flags it as neighborhood noise, irrelevant to the critical operation. Outside, Daniels pounds a 3rd time, frustration mounting. "He knows we're here," he tells Rivera, voice hardening, refusing to answer. "Maybe he can't hear us," Rivera suggests, noting the late hour and closed windows. "Should we call for backup? Verify ownership before..." "I'm calling it in," Daniels cuts him off, already radioing dispatch. "Possible hostile situation, suspect non-compliant, requesting immediate backup and authorization for forced entry." "Authorization?" Rivera questions, eyebrows rising. "Don't we need a warrant to..." "Exigent circumstances," Daniels snaps. "Could be destroying evidence right now. Plus I saw movement consistent with flight preparation." Inside, Harrington finally registers a distant banging sound. He mutes his microphone momentarily. "What the hell?" he mutters, glancing toward his front door. Before he can investigate, the splintering crash of the battering ram sends him into protective mode. Military instinct takes over. Secure classified information first. He lunges to shield the screens, reaching to activate emergency security protocols. The door gives way with a thunderous crack. Daniels enters first, weapon drawn, shouting commands. "Police! Hands where I can see them, now!" Harrington freezes mid-motion, caught between conflicting imperatives. Respond to the immediate threat or protect national security information. His screens still display classified mission data, operative locations, extraction coordinates. "Step away from the computers!" Daniels barks while Rivera moves to flank, both weapons trained on Harrington. "Officers, I'm Colonel James Harrington, Pentagon Special Operations," he states calmly, hands raising slowly. "I'm conducting a classified military operation. My credentials, away from the computers, on your knees, now!" Daniels advances, weapons steady. As Daniels forces Harrington to the ground, the open computer pings with an urgent message. "Colonel, team under fire. Awaiting orders." Harrington's face presses against the hardwood floor, arms wrenched behind him. Cold metal handcuffs bite into his wrists, while the mission computer continues to ping with increasingly urgent alerts. "I have men and women in harm's way right now," Harrington says, maintaining remarkable composure. "You're interfering with a classified Pentagon operation. My ID is in my back pocket. Pentagon credentials, Special Operations Command." Daniels roughly searches him, pulling out a wallet. The military ID gleams under the office lights. Department of Defense insignia clear, Harrington's photo and colonel rank designation prominent. "Nice fake," Daniels scoffs, tossing it aside. "Very professional. Where'd you get it made?" More officers arrive, fanning through the house. One photographs the computer screens, inadvertently documenting classified information. Another rifles through Harrington's desk drawers, pulling out folders stamped with security classification markers. "That's classified material," Harrington states, voice level despite the knee in his back. "You're creating a national security incident." "Yeah, sure am," an officer laughs, opening another drawer. He pulls out a shadow box containing military medals, Bronze Star, Legion of Merit, Purple Heart, all inscribed with Harrington's name. Through Harrington's discarded headset comes a desperate voice. "Colonel, we're taking fire. Do we abort? Colonel, please respond." "Those people need my instructions," Harrington says, straining against the handcuffs. "Lives are at stake. At least let me secure the mission." "The only mission getting secured is your trip to Holding," Daniels says, roughly pulling Harrington to his feet. He shoves him into a chair while continuing the search, deliberately dropping military documents on the floor. Through the broken doorway, a middle-aged white man in a bathrobe peers in, the neighbor who called. His eyes meet Harrington's, showing no recognition despite 3 years of living 50 yards apart. "That's him," the neighbor confirms to another officer. "Never seen him around here before?" "I've lived here 3 years, Harrington states. "You waved to me last weekend when I was mowing my lawn." The neighbor blinks, confusion momentarily crossing his face before hardening into certainty. "No, I'd remember if someone like you lived here." An officer lifts a framed photo from Harrington's desk. Harrington in full-dress uniform receiving an award from the previous Secretary of Defense. "Pretty elaborate cover story," Daniel says, taking the photo. "Real creative. Pentagon commander, huh? Then what are you doing here instead of the Pentagon?" "Remote command protocol," Harrington answers, watching his computer screens continue to flash with urgent messages. "Implemented after the Arlington security breach last year. Please, officer, I need to respond to my team." Daniels laughs, turning to the other officers. "Hear that? His team needs him. What, your burglary team waiting on instructions?" As Harrington sits humiliated on his own floor, a text illuminates his phone screen. "Sir, Secretary of Defense trying to reach you. Mission critical." Harrington watches his phone buzz on the desk, the secretary's name flashing. Each notification represents mounting danger for his team. He makes a rapid strategic assessment. The safety of his operatives now outweighs protocol. "Officer," he addresses Rivera, who seems less dismissive than Daniels. "American lives are at stake. Whatever you think is happening here, I need one phone call, not to a lawyer, to my commanding officer." Rivera hesitates, glancing at the increasingly frantic messages appearing on screens and phone. "Standard procedure," Harrington continues, voice calm but insistent. "You're legally required to allow me one call." Daniels returns from searching another room. "Found more of these fancy IDs in the bedroom," he announces, holding up Harrington's passport and military credentials. "Guy's got a whole identity theft operation going." "I think we should let him make the call," Rivera suggests. "Supervised. If he's lying, we'll know." "Waste of time," Daniels dismisses. "Or confirmation we're doing the right thing," Rivera counters. "What's the harm?" Daniels relents with obvious reluctance. "Fine, one call on speaker." Harrington nods toward his phone. "The number's already there, Secretary Garrison." Daniels raises an eyebrow, dialing with theatrical skepticism. The phone connects almost immediately. "Colonel Harrington, where the hell—" a deep voice begins. "Sir, we have a Code Amber situation," Harrington interrupts, using predetermined security language. "Echo Team is in Omega status, and I'm currently dealing with an unauthorized entry at my command station. Local law enforcement unaware of Nightfall Protocol." A beat of silence follows. The officers exchange glances. "Understood, Colonel," the voice replies, instantly professional. "I'll activate contingency command for Echo Team, regarding your situation. Am I on speaker with the officers present?" "Yes, sir." "This is Secretary of Defense Thomas Garrison," the voice states firmly. "The man you have in custody is Colonel James Harrington, commanding a classified extraction operation. You have exactly 30 seconds to release him before I contact your chief, your commissioner, and if necessary, the governor. You have created a national security incident." Daniel's face flushes. "Sir, we received reports of suspicious—" "Your report was incorrect," Garrison cuts him off. "Colonel, are you physically capable of resuming command?" "Yes, sir, but screens have been compromised. I'll need security sweep and system reset." "Authorized. I'm dispatching Pentagon security to your location now. Officers, you will secure the premises from the outside and speak to no one about what you've seen." Through the window, Harrington observes the neighbor still watching from the sidewalk, satisfaction on his face at seeing a black man in handcuffs. In this moment, Harrington makes a silent vow. This violation won't stand, not just for himself, but for everyone who experiences such treatment without his resources and position. As the call ends, Daniels reluctantly removes the handcuffs, avoiding eye contact. Rivera looks genuinely concerned, perhaps finally processing the magnitude of their error. As Harrington ends the call, the house lights suddenly cut out, and every officer's radio simultaneously erupts with static. Darkness envelops the room. Emergency security protocols activate. Pentagon cyber teams remotely securing Harrington's systems and communications. The momentary blackout creates a power shift more meaningful than mere lighting. When power returns seconds later, Harrington stands differently, shoulders squared, posture commanding. The officers' radios continue buzzing with static before a voice cuts through. Their precinct captain. "All units at 1478 Oakwood Drive, stand down immediately. I repeat, stand down. Clear the premises and establish a perimeter only. Do not interact further with the resident." Daniels grabs his radio. "Captain, this is Daniels. We have a potential situation here involving—" "Officer Daniels," the captain interrupts, voice sharp with barely contained fury. "I've just received a call from the goddamn Secretary of Defense. Stand down, exit the premises, secure the perimeter. That is a direct order." "But sir, the suspect was—" "The resident, Officer Daniels. Colonel Harrington is the legal resident and a high-ranking military officer conducting classified operations. Get out of his house, now!" Rivera immediately moves toward the door, but Daniels hesitates, something hardening in his expression. "Protocol requires we complete the investigation once initiated. For all we know, this call could be Daniels, so help me God. The captain's voice booms through every officer's radio simultaneously. If you are not outside that house in 10 seconds, you'll be turning in your badge tonight. Through the broken doorway, headlights flash as a black SUV with government plates screeches into the driveway. Two more identical vehicles follow, boxing in the police cruisers. Harrington uses the momentary distraction to access his keyboard, entering a series of commands. The screens flicker, mission systems rerouting through secure Pentagon servers. On one monitor, confirmation appears. Echo team secured. Backup command engaged. Officers move uncertainly toward the exit, all except Daniels, who maintains his position, hand still resting on his weapon. "You're making a career-ending mistake," Harrington says quietly, not as a threat but as simple fact. "This isn't over," Daniels responds, voice low. "You're not what you claim to be." "I am exactly what I claim to be," Harrington answers, standing taller. "That's what you can't accept." The front door opens without a knock, revealing a woman in a suit flanked by military police who outrank everyone present. The woman enters without hesitation, her tailored suit and commanding presence immediately dominating the room. Military police in full tactical gear flank her, weapons not drawn but positions strategic. "Director Catherine Chen, Defense Intelligence Agency," she announces, ID already extended. "Colonel Harrington, are you injured?" "Negative, Director," Harrington responds, military formality returning to his voice. "Systems compromised but team secure." She nods once, then turns to Daniels. "Officer, you and your colleagues will exit immediately. Military police will secure the perimeter." Her tone leaves no room for discussion. "Ma'am, we're conducting a legal police operation based on a neighbor's call about a black man entering his own home," she interrupts, eyes narrowing. "You've compromised classified intelligence, violated constitutional protections against unlawful search, and interfered with a military operation. Exit now." The military police move forward, creating a corridor toward the door. Daniels stands his ground for a tense moment before Rivera touches his arm. "Daniels, let's go," he urges quietly. Outside, red and blue lights flash as the precinct captain arrives, face set in a thunderous expression. The neighbor who made the call attempts to approach him but is intercepted by a uniformed officer taking statements. Inside, Chen personally removes Harrington's handcuffs. "Status report, Colonel." Harrington immediately returns to his command station, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Echo team reached extraction point. Secondary command engaged when I was detained. Operation proceeding, but mission data has been compromised." Military technicians pour in, establishing a secure perimeter and documenting everything. The broken door, disturbed documents, unauthorized access to classified systems. One photographs Harrington's military credentials discarded on the floor. Through the window, Harrington watches the precinct captain confronting Daniels, gesturing angrily toward the house. More vehicles arrive. Military, police, internal affairs, even a news van drawn by the unusual confluence of authority. "Pentagon cyber teams have locked down your systems," Chen informs him, watching the technicians work. "Secretary Garrison wants a full debrief when you've stabilized the operation." Harrington nods, focus split between completing his mission and processing the violation of his home and rights. The weight of both responsibilities sits squarely on his shoulders. As Harrington successfully guides the extraction team to safety, Director Chen places a call. "Mr. Secretary, we need to discuss Officer Daniels and systemic police overreach. Colonel Harrington wants to take this all the way." By dawn, Harrington's home transforms into a secure military zone. Technical teams sweep for compromised information, while military police maintain a tight perimeter. Inside, Harrington completes the mission debrief via secure video conference, his expression betraying none of the night's turmoil. "Echo team extracted safely, sir," he reports to the Joint Chiefs representative on screen. "All operatives accounted for, minimal engagement with hostiles." "Excellent work under extraordinary circumstances, Colonel," responds the general. "Now, about the breach at your command station." Outside, the media presence grows. Local stations arrived first, drawn by the unusual police and military convergence. National outlets follow as rumors spread of a high-ranking military officer detained in his own home. At police headquarters, Internal Affairs launches an immediate investigation. Officer Daniels sits stone-faced in an interview room while investigators review body camera footage. Rivera provides his statement in another room, voice steady as he recounts the events leading to the unauthorized raid. Officer Daniels said the suspect, Colonel Harrington, was acting suspiciously, Rivera explains. When there was no immediate response to our knock, Daniels called for the battering ram without attempting to verify residency. The Internal Affairs investigator makes notes. And the basis for the original call? Neighbor reported, quote, someone who doesn't belong in the neighborhood entering the residence. Across town, that neighbor faces his own questioning. Military investigators and police sit at his dining room table, reviewing his call history. Records show you've made 17 calls about suspicious persons in the past year, notes the investigator. All described as minorities, none resulting in actual crime. The neighbor shifts uncomfortably. I'm just being vigilant about neighborhood safety. Back at Harrington's home, the colonel finally completes his official duties. Echo team safely extracted, mission documentation secured, compromise assessment completed. Only now does he turn his full attention to the violation of his rights. Colonel, Director Chen approaches with a secure phone. There are people you should speak with. Civil rights attorneys, military legal counsel, Congressional Oversight Committee members, all waiting for your call. Harrington takes the phone, determination hardening his features. This isn't about just me anymore. This is about accountability and ensuring it never happens again. At the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense reviews the preliminary report, then looks up grimly. Get me the Attorney General. This stops now. The congressional hearing room falls silent as Colonel James Harrington approaches the podium. His dress uniform gleams under the lights, medals and commendations telling their own story of service and sacrifice. This closed session of the Joint Security Committee wasn't originally scheduled to address police misconduct, but the incident at Harrington's home has implications far beyond ordinary civil rights violations. Colonel Harrington, begins the committee chair, please proceed with your operational assessment. Harrington stands perfectly straight, voice clear and professional. Chairwoman, committee members, I appear before you today to report on Operation Nightfall, specifically the extraction of intelligence assets from hostile territory. For 20 minutes, he delivers a flawless briefing on the mission. Operational parameters, intelligence gathered, personnel extracted, all without a single reference to the interruption that nearly compromised it all. Committee members take notes, impressed by both the mission's success and Harrington's composed delivery. Only after completing the official mission report does Harrington shift focus. Now, regarding the security breach that occurred during operations, he states, nodding to an aide who distributes folders to committee members. At 22:37 Eastern Time, my command station was compromised by unauthorized personnel, creating a Level 1 security incident. The room stills as Harrington activates a display screen. High-definition footage from his home security system plays. Officers pounding briefly before battering down his door, weapons drawn, Harrington's immediate attempt to secure classified information, his clear statements identifying himself, officers dismissing his credentials. My God, whispers one committee member, a former military officer himself. Harrington continues, methodical and precise. The officer's actions compromised classified intelligence, endangered operational personnel, and violated multiple laws and constitutional protections. However, this briefing isn't solely about this single incident. The screen changes, displaying Harrington's impressive credentials: Rhodes Scholar, Harvard Law graduate, distinguished military career spanning 22 years, recipient of the Bronze Star, Legion of Merit, and Purple Heart. Currently one of the Pentagon's highest-ranking black officers. What you may not see in my file is that this wasn't my first encounter with law enforcement based solely on my appearance. Harrington's voice remains steady. In my current neighborhood, I've been stopped while jogging 3 times. Questioned while retrieving my own mail twice. Asked to prove residence while mowing my own lawn. He clicks to the next slide, a statistical analysis of similar incidents nationwide. This represents data from military personnel of color across all branches, collected over the past 5 years. Nearly 40% report similar experiences while in civilian clothes. The difference in my case wasn't the incident itself. It was that my position provided recourse and documentation. Committee members lean forward, Republicans and Democrats alike showing rare unified concern. This isn't just a civil rights issue, Harrington continues. It's a national security vulnerability. When officers can disregard identification, violate constitutional protections, and interrupt critical operations based on a neighbor's biased report, we face a systemic failure that affects military readiness and operational security. Harrington presents a comprehensive proposal. Policy changes for both military protocols and law enforcement, accountability measures, training requirements, and legislative recommendations. I could pursue this privately, he concludes, seek personal damages and move forward. But this represents a pattern that endangers both individual rights and national security. It requires systemic solutions. The committee chair removes her glasses, visibly moved. Colonel Harrington, speaking for the entire committee, I express our profound apology for what you experienced. Your approach to this injustice, seeking structural change rather than personal retribution, exemplifies the highest ideals of service. A Republican senator known for law enforcement support nods gravely. Colonel, you've identified vulnerabilities we cannot ignore. This transcends politics. It's about constitutional rights and national security. As the hearing concludes, congressional staff already begin drafting response measures. Military and Justice Department representatives exchange concerned glances, recognizing the magnitude of changes to come. Harrington stands to leave when an aide rushes in, handing him a tablet. On screen, Officer Daniels speaks to a local news reporter. I was following department protocol. We received a call about suspicious activity and responded appropriately. If people don't want police attention, maybe they should... The aide cuts the video. He's given 3 interviews denying wrongdoing, the aide explains. Claims he's being scapegoated for following training and protocol. Harrington hands back the tablet, expression unchanged. Then, his training and their protocol need to change. And he's just made that case for us. As Harrington concludes his presentation, his phone buzzes with a notification. Officer Daniels has just given an unapologetic interview to the press, claiming he was just following protocol. The incident at 1478 Oakwood Drive triggers a cascade of investigations, each revealing deeper institutional failures than the last. Inside the Pentagon's secure conference room, military intelligence officials review the breach report. Screens display compromised data, satellite positions, operative identities, mission parameters, all photographed by police during the unauthorized raid. Assessment confirms Level 1 security compromise, states the lead analyst. Officers' body cameras recorded 9 seconds of classified intelligence before Colonel Harrington could secure the systems. The Secretary of Defense studies the report, expression grim. Implement Harrington's recommendations immediately. Remote command protocols need complete overhaul, residential security systems for all officers conducting remote operations, and direct liaison with local law enforcement in all districts where our personnel reside. Across town, the police department's Internal Affairs Division faces its own reckoning. Investigators review Officer Daniels' service record, finding a disturbing pattern hidden in plain sight. 17 excessive force complaints in 8 years, notes the lead investigator, spreading files across the conference table. 15 involving minorities, all dismissed during preliminary review. The police chief, facing mounting pressure, examines the documentation. How did these never reach my desk? Standard procedure, explains the investigator. Complaints below a certain threshold get handled at precinct level. But looking at the pattern now, a pattern deliberately obscured by the process, the chief finishes, realization dawning. The system protected him by treating each incident in isolation. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division launches its broader investigation. Attorneys pore over hundreds of similar incidents nationwide, using Harrington's case as a catalyst for examining systemic issues. Colonel Harrington's case is the perfect test case, explains the lead attorney to her team. Impeccable victim with indisputable evidence, clear constitutional violations, and national security implications that transcend political divides. Media coverage evolves rapidly. Initial reports favored the police perspective. Officers respond to suspicious activity call, encounter military operation. Within days, as facts emerge, headlines shift. Pentagon colonel handcuffed in own home while commanding critical mission. A conservative and liberal outlets alike question the implications for both civil liberties and national security. Officer Rivera, transferred to administrative duties, provides crucial testimony about departmental culture. We're taught that hesitation costs lives, he explains to Internal Affairs. The message is clear. Better to act decisively and sort it out later than risk officer safety by pausing to verify. Even when no threat is apparent? Asks the investigator. Rivera hesitates. Especially then. We're trained to see potential threats everywhere, and there's enormous pressure not to question senior officers' decisions in the field. The neighbor whose call initiated the incident faces his own scrutiny. Community association records reveal a pattern of complaints about suspicious individuals, all minorities, all legitimate visitors or residents. Local news interviews other neighbors who describe a community WhatsApp group where certain residents regularly post about suspicious characters without evidence of actual criminal activity. At the police union headquarters, officials meet in emergency session. The union president slams his hand on the table. We always defend our officers, but this is indefensible, he states to stunned silence. Body camera footage, Pentagon security recordings, classified mission interference. We can't spin this. Another official disagrees. Daniels followed his training. If we don't stand behind him, we're abandoning every officer who breaks down doors without warrants, who ignores valid identification, who compromises national security. The president shakes his head. This isn't about one officer anymore. The entire department faces restructuring if we don't get ahead of this. The debate continues as more officers come forward with accounts of similar incidents and problematic training. 3 veteran officers request early retirement rather than participate in the investigation. Colonel Harrington navigates these proceedings with strategic precision. He meets with civil rights attorneys not to pursue personal damages, but to ensure systemic changes. He consults with police reform experts, military security specialists, and legislative aides drafting new protections. The goal isn't punishment, he explains during a closed-door meeting with Justice Department officials. It's transformation, not just for police departments, but for military protocols, community reporting systems, and accountability structures. At City Hall, the council holds an emergency session addressing the police department's liability. The city attorney presents a sobering assessment. Beyond potential civil damages, we face federal intervention if we don't implement comprehensive reforms, she explains. The DOJ has made clear this case provides grounds for a pattern or practice investigation of our entire department. Council members debate allocation of funds for retraining, oversight mechanisms, and community engagement programs. The discussion reveals deep divisions about policing philosophy, but surprising consensus about the need for change. This incident has forced us to confront what we've ignored, admits the council president. When someone of Colonel Harrington's stature experiences this treatment, it validates what many community members have reported for years. Throughout these proceedings, Officer Daniels remains defiant, giving interviews portraying himself as a scapegoat. His media appearances make reform advocates case for them. His unapologetic insistence that he followed protocol underscores the need for protocol changes. The police chief holds a press conference announcing immediate policy changes. mandatory warrant verification before forced entry, proper identification validation procedures, and supervisor approval for any action based solely on suspicious person reports. "We failed, Colonel Harrington," the chief acknowledges publicly. "More importantly, we failed our community by allowing procedures that enabled bias to influence police actions. Today marks the beginning of essential reforms." Behind closed doors, the conversation is more pointed. The chief meets with precinct captains, internal affairs, and training officers. "This stops now," he states unequivocally. "We're implementing bias screening in hiring and psychological evaluations, weekly review of all civilian complaints regardless of threshold, and any officer with a pattern of complaints faces immediate review, not protection." Several captains shift uncomfortably, recognizing their role in perpetuating problematic systems. One raises a hand. "Sir, with all due respect, these standards will make recruitment and retention nearly impossible. Officers need confidence that the department will back their judgment calls." "Their lawful judgment calls," the chief corrects. "We'll back officers who follow constitutional procedures, nothing less." As these investigations unfold, Harrington continues his military duties while becoming an unexpected bridge between stakeholders. Military officials respect his strategic approach. Civil rights advocates appreciate his focus on systemic solutions. Law enforcement reformers value his emphasis on security alongside accountability. When a reporter asks if he seeks Officer Daniels' termination, Harrington's response surprises many. "I seek transformation of the systems that produced his behavior and protected it. Individual accountability matters, but institutional change matters more." The mayor, recognizing political reality, establishes a police oversight commission with actual authority, subpoena power, disciplinary recommendation rights, and regular public reporting requirements. The commission's composition reflects the community's diversity, with seats specifically reserved for civil rights attorneys, former law enforcement, and community advocates. "This commission isn't window dressing," the mayor announces. "It has real teeth and clear mandate. Ensure policing that respects rights while maintaining public safety." 45 days after the incident, the City Council unanimously passes the Harrington Protocols, comprehensive reforms addressing warrant requirements, identification verification, response protocols for suspicious person calls, and mandatory reporting of all civilian interactions involving entry to private property. Officer Daniels' attorney releases a statement as these changes unfold. "My client was set up to fail by inadequate training and departmental pressure to act aggressively. He should not bear sole responsibility for systemic failures." The statement inadvertently supports reformers' arguments, acknowledging the institutional problems while attempting to deflect individual accountability. Reform advocates immediately incorporate this admission into their calls for comprehensive change. Throughout this period, Harrington maintains his military duties while providing testimony to multiple investigations. He declines most interview requests, but accepts an invitation to address a joint training session of military personnel and local law enforcement. "Two vital institutions, military and police, both require public trust to function effectively," he tells the assembled officers. "That trust must be earned through accountability, professionalism, and equal application of protections. When either institution fails to uphold these standards, we all become less secure." As the police chief prepares to announce departmental reforms, Officer Daniels' attorney releases a statement. "My client was set up to fail by inadequate training and departmental pressure to act aggressively." The disciplinary hearing room sits silent except for the soft whir of recording equipment. Due to unprecedented public interest, the proceedings stream live to City Hall's overflow rooms and local television. Officer Daniels sits rigidly beside his attorney, face impassive beneath the harsh institutional lighting. The review board chairperson, a retired judge with a reputation for impartiality, calls the hearing to order. This board convenes to determine whether Officer Michael Daniels violated departmental policies, procedures, and oath of office during the incident at 1478 Oakwood Drive. Daniels' attorney presents their defense strategy immediately. Officer Daniels followed his training and departmental expectations. He responded to a citizen's call about suspicious activity, observed behavior consistent with evidence concealment, and took action to secure potential evidence. The department's legal representative counters by methodically dismantling this narrative. Officer Daniels failed to verify property ownership before forced entry, information readily available through dispatch. He dismissed valid federal identification. He continued detention after confirmation of Colonel Harrington's identity by the Secretary of Defense himself. Body camera footage plays on large screens. The unedited video reveals moments not previously public. Daniels's dismissive comments about Harrington's credentials, the casual disregard for military honors found during the search, the continued detention even after verification calls. Police Academy trainers testify about proper protocols. Officers must verify residents' claims when possible, states the lead instructor. Valid government identification requires respectful investigation, not summary dismissal. These represent fundamental procedures taught in basic training. When questioned about why he ignored these protocols, Daniels' response reveals telling assumptions. The situation required immediate action. The subject's behavior appeared evasive, and the property seemed inconsistent with his profile. His profile? The chairperson inquires. His appearance, Daniels clarifies, then quickly amends. His casual attire and demeanor didn't match the property's status. Officer Rivera's testimony proves particularly damaging. Now reassigned to community outreach, he speaks with evident discomfort but clear conviction. Officer Daniels made the entry decision without attempting verification, Rivera states. When Colonel Harrington presented credentials, Daniels dismissed them without proper examination. When contradicting information emerged, he escalated rather than reassessed. The most revealing testimony comes from statistical analysis of Daniels's policing history. A data analyst presents findings from his 12-year career. 74% of his discretionary stops involved minorities in a district with 31% minority population. Use of force incidents showed similar disparities. Civilian complaints followed the pattern. These statistics don't prove intent, the analyst notes carefully, but they demonstrate consistent disparate outcomes across Officer Daniels' career. When Daniels finally testifies, his insistence on justification rather than acknowledgement seals his fate. I acted on information provided by a concerned citizen. I observed behavior consistent with evidence concealment. I secured a potential crime scene according to my training. And when presented with Colonel Harrington's Pentagon credentials, asks a board member, in my experience, criminals often possess sophisticated false identification. Did you take any steps to verify these supposedly false credentials? Daniels hesitates. The situation required immediate control before verification. The hearing's final witness is Colonel Harrington himself. He enters in civilian business attire, commanding the room with quiet authority. Rather than expressing anger, he presents a forensic analysis of each procedural failure and its consequences. Officer Daniels had multiple opportunities to correct his initial misjudgment, Harrington concludes. Each decision point offered the chance to verify information, respect constitutional boundaries, and adjust actions accordingly. Each time, he chose escalation over verification. The board's decision comes swiftly. Termination of employment, recommendation for criminal charges of official misconduct, and perhaps most significantly, department-wide review of training and accountability systems. As Daniels exits the hearing room, reporters crowd the hallway. Officer Daniels, do you have any response to the board's decision? Daniels stops, something shifting in his expression. The first crack in his certainty. I want to speak to Colonel Harrington. As Daniels leaves the hearing, a reporter asks if he has any comment. His unexpected response, I want to speak to Colonel Harrington. 6 months after the incident, Colonel Harrington stands at a podium in the Justice Department's main conference room. Now wearing the silver eagle of a full colonel, he addresses an unprecedented gathering. Police chiefs from major departments, military security officials, civil rights attorneys, and community advocates. Today marks the official launch of the Joint Task Force on Constitutional Policing and Security, Harrington announces, voice carrying the quiet authority that has made him an effective bridge between previously opposed stakeholders. This represents a new approach to ensuring both public safety and constitutional rights. Behind him, a digital display shows the task force's early accomplishments. Police departments in 37 cities have implemented the Harrington Protocols, comprehensive guidelines for verification before forced entry, response criteria for suspicious person calls, and mandatory documentation of all civilian encounters. These aren't just recommendations, Harrington continues. They're fundamental reforms with accountability mechanisms and measurable outcomes. Across the country, changes ripple through institutional structures. Police Academy cadets now undergo rigorous training on constitutional boundaries and implicit bias recognition. Veteran officers attend mandatory retraining. Body cameras operate with strict compliance requirements, and civilian oversight boards wield actual authority. The neighbor whose call initiated the incident completes court-mandated community service and bias education programs. More importantly, neighborhood associations nationwide adopt new reporting guidelines focusing on specific behaviors rather than subjective discomfort about who belongs. At the local level, Officer Rivera finds unexpected purpose in his reassignment to community policing. He speaks candidly to academy classes about the Harrington incident. "I failed to intervene when I should have questioned a superior officer's judgment," he tells cadets. "That failure nearly cost military lives and definitely violated a citizen's rights. Your responsibility isn't just to follow orders, it's to uphold constitutional principles." Congressional action provides institutional weight to these reforms. Bipartisan legislation establishes enhanced penalties for civil rights violations that compromise national security. Military personnel receive additional protections and reporting channels when experiencing discrimination in civilian settings. The police union initially resisted many changes, but has become an unexpected partner in implementation. The union president addresses the media outside headquarters. "These reforms actually protect officers by providing clear guidelines," he explains. "When expectations are explicit and training is comprehensive, officers can perform their duties with confidence and community support." Most significant is the cultural shift within departments. Chiefs implement early intervention systems identifying officers, showing problematic patterns before critical incidents occur. Anonymous reporting channels allow officers to flag concerning behavior without fear of retaliation. Promotion criteria now include demonstrated commitment to constitutional policing alongside traditional metrics. Harrington's approach, seeking systemic transformation rather than merely individual punishment, has proven remarkably effective. By focusing on institutional failures rather than villainizing all officers, he's created space for meaningful change that transcends political divides. As he concludes his presentation, an aide approaches with a message. "Colonel, there's someone who's been requesting to meet with you for weeks. Former Officer Daniels." As Harrington reviews the new training manual his task force has created, his assistant announces an unexpected visitor, former Officer Daniels. 1 year after officers kicked down his door, Colonel Harrington sits in a quiet coffee shop across from Michael Daniels. No longer in uniform, Daniels looks smaller somehow, the authority of his position stripped away. Between them sits an untouched chessboard, neutral territory suggested by the mediator who arranged this meeting. "I appreciate you agreeing to this, Colonel," Daniels begins, discomfort evident in his rigid posture. "I know you had every reason to refuse." Harrington studies him, neither hostile nor particularly warm. "I believe in addressing systems rather than individuals, Mr. Daniels, but systems are made of individuals capable of change." Daniels nods, eyes on the chess pieces. "For years I told myself I was just following protocol, doing what I was trained to do." He looks up, meeting Harrington's gaze directly. "It took losing everything to recognize that wasn't true." I saw what I expected to see that night. I made assumptions I'd been making my entire career. Assumptions with life-altering consequences for those on the receiving end, Harrington observes. Yes. Daniels accepts this without defensiveness. I can't undo what happened to you or to others before you, but I am trying to prevent it happening again. He explains his new role, working with police academy reform, using his experience as a cautionary lesson. Cadets hear his story firsthand, learn about the cascade of biased decisions that led to his downfall, and the institutional systems that enabled those decisions for years. It's not redemption, Daniels acknowledges, but it might be useful. Harrington considers this. Useful is what matters now. Their conversation shifts to the changes unfolding across institutions. Harrington describes the military's improved support systems for personnel experiencing discrimination in civilian settings. Daniels outlines the Academy's transformed approach to suspicious activity reports and constitutional boundaries. They don't become friends. That would be neither realistic nor necessary. But they find common ground in their commitment to preventing similar incidents. As they part, Daniels asks the question that brought him here. Why did you focus on changing systems rather than destroying me? You had every right to pursue maximum personal damages. Harrington stands, straightening his civilian jacket. Because my position gave me the resources to address the injustice systematically. Most people who experience what I did lack those resources. They can't call the Secretary of Defense. They don't have security cameras documenting every violation. Pursuing your destruction would have satisfied temporary anger while leaving the system intact for the next incident. Back in his neighborhood, Harrington finds transformed community relations. Neighbors who once called police now stop to chat when he retrieves his mail. The community has implemented thoughtful security protocols that address actual suspicious behavior rather than subjective discomfort about who belongs. At the Pentagon, Harrington's experience has catalyzed institutional change. Military personnel of color now have direct reporting channels for discrimination experienced in civilian settings. Remote command protocols include enhanced security measures and local authority liaison requirements. In his home office, rebuilt and upgraded, Harrington reviews applications for the task force's Community Advisory Board. The stack includes former officers, civil rights advocates, neighborhood organizers, diverse voices essential for sustainable reform. On his desk sits a framed quote that has become the task force's unofficial motto. Justice shouldn't require rank or resources. Dignity is everyone's right. If this story of justice and accountability resonated with you, make sure to hit that subscribe button on Beat Stories right now. We bring you the most compelling true stories of injustice confronted and systemic change achieved. Drop a like on this video to help our content reach others who need to hear these powerful narratives. Your engagement directly helps us continue producing quality content that shines a light on these critical issues. Remember, each subscription supports our mission to bring these important stories to light. Join the Beat Stories community today, where we believe that sharing these narratives is the first step toward creating lasting change.
Every time someone stands up, speaks out, or refuses to be erased, a new story is born. At Beat Stories, we archive that courage. Subscribe now and help us keep these moments alive, because the more we share them, the harder they are to ignore.